Shanti, good evening, and welcome to our session on going to do some meditation, and we're also going to, for me to give a little talk on the rise and fall of humanity, because I think with mankind's viewpoint or perspective of it, he feels it is rising because of better working conditions and better facilities, better technology, and also better availability of knowledge, better communication. And it looks like mankind's very much on the rise, but actually his rise is his fall, really, because he actually is losing more and more of his morality when he actually goes to be more ambitious, and as they say, look out who you tread on as you go up the greasy pole, because you've got to meet them on the way down. And it seems to be that where there's a rise, there's also a fall, where people improve something, that their ego actually is a self-destruct, really self-destructive of their humility, their self-worth. The more people become attached to their positions, the more they're actually creating, something will happen to their wealth or something. Give you an example, something happened a little while ago where it was reported to me that something's happened to one of my relatives, and that's where all your practice of Raja Yoga meditation comes in, really, because the outside world, although that may be in a disturbed state, you don't want your inner world disturbed. And that's much to do with the fact that we want to be empowered. Again, it's a self-empowerment, but when you empower yourself, you also empower others. So you've actually got to be able to click a switch away from the outside world where the downfall is happening, where the problems are happening, and be concerned with your own rise, and your own rise to stability, stillness. It's not really rising, it's more to do with connecting to something that's real and true within you, because behind all the thoughts of the mind, there's a lot of stillness and stability. And really what you're actually achieving is to not be affected by the outside world, and to affect the outside world, so that your inner world is actually attaining a state of mastery, which is what Raja Yoga meditation is. Stillness, stability, a peace that doesn't fluctuate, doesn't waver, where peaceless thoughts are actually being quelled and quietened, where, one problem today, if your mind goes to it, then, another problem comes up the next day, and your mind is becoming more enslaved by the problems, the more they're getting pulled. So we are beings on the planet that use our thoughts, words and actions as savings accounts, and some are just expending so much energy through thoughts, words and actions that all that happens is that the structure of the body gets damaged, your health gets damaged, because your thoughts create vibrations, your words create vibrations throughout the physical body. And words are stronger than thoughts because they actually come into their thoughts in action. And when it's action, words and thoughts, all three of them, you find yourself actually being having an empty bank balance, and that's where depression can set in. So you're actually reconfiguring, if you like, your thoughts, words and actions, so that when problems do come up, they're not taking all your energy through your thoughts. They can only take energy through your thoughts, because if you didn't know about a problem, it wouldn't be a problem, would it? It's only that we know the bank balance could be empty, but if we don't know about it, then it's our awareness, and when the awareness grows, then we have this downfall of power, this downfall of energy, and this is happening worldwide. So it literally is, although it looks like the rise of humanity at the present time, it's in reality the downfall, because it doesn't matter to people about whether they're egoless. They don't practice being egoless. They instead they knock egos with each other. If someone says something, the other person says something with the same tone, in the same way. And as we've always been taught, two wrongs don't make a right. So you've got a double energy. You've got their energy and my own energy, which is negative. So there's nothing positive, and simple mathematics is negative plus negative equals more negative. So this is what's happening in the households. And I've got a question coming from the floor.
So humanity has fallen collectively. So what could I do as one human being?
It's a very good question. So the question is coming from the floor, that is that humanity is falling collectively. So what can I do as a single human being? In a sense, we're all our own little worlds, because we all have our own inner world of thoughts, and it's almost like a constellation of people that have their own world, and they all only live on their own planet. But because they meet up with each other, they think they're, living on this. We're all living on the same planet. But in actual fact, in our inner world, we're actually all different planets of a huge constellation of the world of thoughts, words, actions that creates individual's journey. In other words, everyone is unique and separate from everyone else. So what's been happening basically is that this has been spreading from one world to the next, one conglomeration of thoughts from passed on to one to the other, and they've been infecting each other. So I mean, the way to stop the infection is we only have to stop our own infection and be protected against infection. You always do that, don't you? Whenever you make sure that it's kept clean and the wounds looked after, the bandages. So you've got to keep that free from infection, basically. So you have the company that you choose. It's a very powerful form, because it's different. Positive is stronger than negative, basically, because positive connects you, aligns you to your true nature, whereas negative aligns you to an acquired nature, like a second nature that we've acquired throughout many lives, where we've been falling into the same traps collectively and infecting each other. But I only have to actually deal with my own world. Your world is completely separate to the others. So you're actually building a structure whereby a test comes along, and your only interest really is how you can keep the mind separate. You've done what you need to do, and you don't want to have waste thoughts about it. So you're empowering yourself by nurturing the mind back into soul consciousness, into love consciousness, God consciousness as well. Because, when people have had those out-of-body experiences where they've said that the love they felt was indescribable, and it was unutterable bliss. I've never experienced love like it. That's what your power is being generated towards. So that's what that love that you experience, touch the love that's inside of that person at that time. So that's what the human soul is capable of. But instead, what they choose to do was rise in the way. There's a temporary form of rising, which makes them feel better about their state. I mean, you wouldn't think about rising if you weren't discontent about your own state. You'd say, well, enough is a feast. I've got plenty. I've got enough money to spend. It's gone again. I'll just click on the picture. It's come back. double clicked on the picture. Yeah, so you're actually forging, creating your own inner world so that it's impregnable, and it will keep getting impregnated with other people's negativity, and we're just not responding to that in the same negative way. So they've got a certain attitude, perhaps they've got a certain opinion, perhaps they've got a certain belief system that they've got about other people. Everyone's got their own enemies, don't they? I don't want to add to my enemies by, you know, if I've got 3 enemies on the planet or 2 enemies on the planet, I don't want, just because I think someone's reasoning is genuine, I don't want to make that person who I don't know my enemy. But people do that, don't they? They say, oh, he sounds horrible, she sounds horrible. Or if I meet that person, I don't think I'll be able to talk to that person when I meet them at the party next week and things like that. So you get this kind of like this negativity is being bred, and all it does really is that it doesn't give you the feel good factor, because we're on our own most of the time, and during that time the person's bored, they need entertaining, and it's purely because being with themselves isn't a nice place to be. So they're either sleeping through it, or they're actually having to play computer games to take their mind away from themselves. They're being distracted because of what they've created. But the actual aim is this unutterable, indescribable, blissful state of love that the human soul is capable of. And that's when they stop buying into that anything in this world can make me rise, can help me lift my self-worth, self-respect, self-esteem, to make me feel like I'm rising, because humanity is on the floor at the moment, morally, because their caring is very insulated, isolated towards a certain type of person, or a certain friend, or a certain family member. And even within the family, there's biasness, and they like one more than the other. So it's not a very reliable form of love. It is really the downfall of love. Is there any other? Okay, yeah, so that's what we can do with ourselves. We can actually ignore following others and be an example for them to colour their world, and not be too perturbed if they don't do that on their planet, because they're busy didn't plan it. Get it? Planet? We need to plan it to become a planet. So once you've got this structure of introversion, basically you're back in aligned with yourself. You're reconnected, and the connection can be lost as soon as we, get caught up in what other people are thinking or might be thinking. And our belief systems are important, actually, because we shouldn't judge books by their cover. We shouldn't jump the gun and jump in because you're bypassing the intellect. Then the sanskars have a connection with the mind, and the mind has a connection with the intellect, and the intellect the mind. So, when the sanskars, which are negative habits, when a person sees someone and judges them, in the 1600s, the slavery started because a ship brought 20 Africans back from Africa. So they discovered Africa, and they found 20 Africans. They brought 20 Africans back on their ship, and they brought them back as slaves. And after that, it was like everyone started to believe. So it was like a disease, really, people's belief system, that African people are born for slavery. And can you imagine? So there's people who are going over to other countries, and they're actually bringing these people back against their will and tying them in slavery. And so whatever the belief is, because of the physical body, because of the culture, the caste system in India is all bringing about, although people think that they're high because they're the Brahmin, cast, and when they're looking down on people, they're damaging the soul. Basically, they're damaging their own self-worth, self-respect. So morality, dharma, is actually going down while everything appears to be going up. But everything else is so fragile, really. And when people, if people knew what many people know in the world, if that was spread to across the world, there would be a panic. And so, this rise is purely to do with your planet being basically better empowered, better looked after, and don't have too much expansion on anything that's negative, thinking it will counter anything that's negative. It doesn't, it just adds to it. So that's what our meditation is. If you hear that there's some problem in the home, and the imagination starts to work on what that can be and the worst things that could be. 95% of our imagination doesn't actually happen. So really, you're only working on a 5% truth, which is, and yet people imagine the worst, and they cause themselves a lot of stress by losing all their energy. So it's a good test, actually, because the tests that are happening in the outside world, your meditation is seeing if you can switch off and switch on to your true nature, to your true self, which is where the rise needs to take place. We've got to go from that place of caring, kindness, warmth, to an unconditional state, where there's an incredible state of bliss being experienced more and more day to day, because you're bringing your armies of energy back from your belief systems, really, where you believe that there was fortune and misfortune, luck and good luck, winning and losing. All these are extreme things, and there's no extreme about the self. The true nature is pure, it's divine, it's beautiful, but to experience, we've got to not just, while this time period is going on, where we're practicing being soul consciousness and practicing being in remembrance of the Supreme, but in actual fact, take it with you, make it more important than taking your mobile phone with you, so that you're in what they call being in the zone, isn't it? Where, whatever difficulties there are in the outside world, your connection with yourself and the connection with the Supreme Soul is actually having an influence on that. So those two things are the most important thing you can take into any situation to resolve it. But why mankind overthinks so much is because he's looking for solutions that don't work, basically. They're only a temporary measure. They're working on the effect, not the cause. The cause of all problems on the planet is because people's virtues have lessened. That means they've become more aware of their ego, their greed, other people's greed, other people's selfishness. Remember, we can only see in others what's in ourselves. So when we're looking at others' selfishness, others' greed, we're damaging the soul's qualities, the virtues. You can't damage a soul as a structure, because it's invisible, it's immortal, it's eternal, but the energies can actually be shifted within that soul. As I say, everything's going on here. As soon as you have a thought of the outside world's problems, then that shift starts to become a problem here, because it's believed to be a problem. There's no problem here. There's no problems right now. So in the here and now, there aren't any problems. So make the here and now, bring the here and now into the there and then. So you're problem free. So keep this connection that you're There's no problems here. When people talk about their problems, don't allow them to touch you. Don't allow them to influence you. Because something's being settled. And it's always good if something's settled, because it's settled. It's settling. You know, it's always a nice settling feeling when something's settled, isn't it? So allow these things to be settled. And then what you're doing is you're creating a space between yourself and the situation, so that the thought can come for the solution for that particular person, for that particular situation. Don't jump in where they jumped in. You know, don't be emotionally athletic like that. Be lazy with your emotions. Don't jump to their tune, because they're immediately trying to invoke you into thinking a lot. And the more you think, the more you push away the right answer. The right answer is always there for the situation that a person needs. That's why you're there. You know, you were meant to be there because it needs your qualities to be there. And only you can be there because you're there and no one else is there. So you're the one that's meant to resolve and dissolve that problem. And it may be, sometimes it's just, creating space in yourself, and giving them that feeling of what that space feels like, because it's a nice feeling. You're in a space, you know, you've got lots of, you're the only one on your planet, remember that. And so you've got loads of space on your planet, but it's been completely trafficked out, you know, the actual traffic of believing that we live with this one, with this problem, we live in this world with this problem. We don't, we just live here. So that will be your rise. The fall happens because everyone's ready to blow. Basically, they're either ready to burst out crying, or they're ready to burst in anger if their space is trodden on, if they feel that someone is, there's some kind of an injustice going on. They feel that by creating justice for that person, that will make those feelings go away. And it doesn't. Those feelings are inside here that need to be thrown out. Any more questions?
We're talking about the belief system, changing the belief system. But again, my belief system is based on the world belief system. So then I had to go against what the whole world is.
Yeah.
But how do I change? What would be the base of my belief system? Is it my heart, or how do I transfer my old beliefs to the new and correct beliefs?
Yeah. The question that came is that the world is actually having this belief system that's going on, and our belief systems are very much based on the world belief system. So, you know, if the whole world is in this kind of mindset, as it were, then we would also be believing in that, which is true to a large extent. And you said, how do I go against that? Well, you're not actually going against that. We've been going against ourselves. That's the whole problem, isn't it? You know, you start your day as you mean to continue. So just got a message. Thank you. You're not actually going against something. You're going with something, because you're actually coming in alignment with your own true nature, and that's why we keep company of people with like minds, really, because we know how powerful that is. Together we stand, united we stand, divided we fall, isn't it? And that's why, you know, when groups of spiritual people come together, you know, to practice this Raj Yoga, it's as if God's there. It's as if God's encouraging that. So you get not only your own good company and something that will help your own structure, and you're helping others structure, but you're actually changing the entire world. So you're not really concerned with these fragile beliefs because they're actually based on falsehood. They're based on a false identity of the physical, believing the physical world to be more is better, more. And they're all going to the same, having the same negative effect on each other, really. And really, you weren't much affected by that anyway, but we were little affected by ourselves. At this time period, when we come into this with this mindset, it's not so much of how much of negativity can affect us that's in the world, it's how little we've been affecting ourselves with something that's real, something that's true. You know, we always search for peace, love and happiness, but we didn't realise how powerful we were with it. You know, so what we chose was some form of power that makes massages our ego, because it's a temporary feeling of being up there, isn't it? We tried to be the very best to get that temporary feeling, and you're only as good as your last performance. So you're not really going against, you're more likely going with. And you know, you're 1 in a million, but you're more powerful than a million, because a million falsehoods are not as powerful as one truth. So it's only a concept, really, again, a belief system that, you know, there's 7 billion souls, but those 7 billion souls are all affected by negativity to some extent or another, some less, some more. And so really, you know, your presence actually, even in a second of being aligned with your true self, which is all good, nothing wonky or negative, nothing bad about it, you know, that is impossible. Your highest thought of your highest self, isn't it? That's what your true self is. Your highest self is higher than anything else. It can't be higher because it's yours. And it always has been. So you're not really going against it, because to go against it would feel like the salmon swimming against the stream, you know, swimming against the tide, trying to get upstream while the water's flowing downstream. It's actually not going against something, you're going with something. It just needs a cessation for a thought, the thoughts of the body, the role, and everything connected to those things, all the labels, just the cessation, the stoppage of that, and the connection with the pure, powerful point of you, and that's plenty to get a taste for it. And you know, once you got that taste for it, then it's never ending. It's just a continuous journey, because it's like tasting something nice, isn't it? You want to taste it again and again. So, shall we do some meditation to finish, and then thank you for joining us. So allowing yourself to switch off from the outside world and all the things that we've got to do, and all the things that we know about our role and our physical body and other people's physical body. All the dilemmas of the outside world are really and truly outside. And we're inside, looking out from behind the eyes. We're looking out, not in the world without, we're in the world within. And so start to believe that inside there is complete peace, stable peace. There's unending stillness, like a river of stillness, that you turn your mind and wash your mind in that clean, unadulterated pool of inner stillness. And allow yourself to feel good about being yourself. You joined the labels as a soul. You will leave all the labels behind. Let go of the temporary and contemplate permanent. Your permanent nature has always been there. It's always been signaling to you to acquire peace, love and happiness. But we chose the outside world. Envision all the kindness that you've shown throughout your life, all the care that you've shown, all the respect that you've shown, and gather it up in the moment and bless yourself with it, because you are the source of goodness, who has been giving out a lot of goodness and kindness with no consideration for yourself. Now consider your own soul to be in need of your complete attention, warmth, love, an enormous heart. Allow it to just be about you, just for this short time. You are everything that is needed to handle everything of the external. Believe in yourself. Om Shanti and good night.